had a Zoom. Hey, we wanted to do that launch day, Brooks, is that an option? Like, we wanted to do the September one instead of October one? Might be. I just need some time to kind of sit down and strap. I think just kind of like do a launch strategy. I know I can have that done by September one.
Yep. That's on us, not them, they don't mind.
I think I might. Did you put it in that folder yesterday?
Remember the sun and the beach right outside. Took a little time, here we go again. You know I'll always stay. Every little thing that I said I would do, how I wish I could share it with you. I can see clearly how I feel now that the sun comes up my way. We can go on and on for days. Remember the sun and the beach right outside. Took a little time, here we go again. You know I'll always stay. Every little thing that I said I would do, how I wish I could share it with you. Took a little time, here we go again. You know I'll always stay. Every little thing that I said I would do, how I wish I could share it with you.
nie powołaj, zdjęcie ta czułaj. Pastej umba, ejałwy ten szujta, zaman serujta. Aż to doja, nastąd duszoja, prawdy doja, samolot w siwa sok. Na to syple, nogi syple, nogi kuje, все mnie.
$1,800 a month? Yeah. My pleasure.
Eye to eye, so close. Some way only we know. Some way only we know. Hand in hand, hold on. No, we never go so low. No, we never go so low. With a light in the sky when the stars burn down. With the music you hear when the beat drops out. With the afterglow. With the afterglow. With a light in the sky when the stars burn down. With the music you hear when the beat drops out. With the afterglow. And we are, and we are, and we are. With the afterglow. And we are, and we are, and we are.
Is Mark coming back to August? She's going today in August. So the man trying to figure out alright, so he's not doing the 21st. Jump class. Trying to do a jump class on the 21st.
Silhouettes frozen, memories caught in a moment, memories caught in a moment. Side by side tonight, dance with our hearts wide open, dance with our hearts wide open. With a light in the sky when the stars burn down. With the music you hear when the beat drops out. With the afterglow. And we are, and we are, and we are. With the afterglow.
Yeah.
And we are, and we are, and we are. Afterglow. I see your colors in the dark, the dark.
I was at alumni function over there.
Nice, man. They took topped out. I've seen marketing and stuff like that
Yeah.
before. They had the bus out there. They had, you would swear that somebody had
Who's over?
I think her name is Andy. Over like put that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
I think a lot of
That LarryWBrooks.
Hold on, what'd you say, Kim?
I said, is that LarryWBrooks in the building?
Yeah, that's LarryWBrooks. That's who's in the building right there talking.
Ah, how are you, Mr. Brooks?
What up, Kendra?
Not too much. Chilling.
Kendra, he gave you a shout out. You hear him?
Oh, I can't hear anything.
I say, Larry gave you a shout out. Did you hear him?
I didn't hear him.
All right, we're gonna get started.
But I know he loves me, so I believe.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he loves you. You know he loves you without a shadow of a doubt. And we're gonna get started in about 5 minutes.
All right.
Margaret. Oh, okay. This is a second. Okay. Take that test. What you need to do. Yeah, you need to take that test. Wow. Maybe next week. They trying to get this exposure, bro. And us. I did the town hall. My expert. Good training. Alright. Let's send out a text. Go ahead and text everybody and then we'll get started. Hey Jess, can you pull it up on your computer so if anybody does any comments in the chat or anything, you can see it? Build. All right. All right. How's everybody doing today? How's the sound? Can y'all hear on Zoom? Y'all hear good? Can you hear? You can hear us, Kendra? Say something, Kendra. No, we can't hear you. Hold on. All right, say something. Let me get my sound together. They can hear, but we can't hear them because we want to be able to hear Kendra. Kendra, say something, Kendra.
Hey, can you hear me?
Okay, but yeah. Hold on. All right, say something else. Barely.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, but she's not going through the TV. She's going through my computer.
My volume.
Oh, let me try to take the mic out. All right, say something now, Kendra. How you do it? Digital, right?
Just go to the sound.
Right here, right? It's already there. Yeah, but it's not going through the TV. Say when I was playing the YouTube, it was. But
Change the digital output. What options do you have?
I have speaker.
Go to speakers on there.
Say something, Kendra.
Hear me now?
Still the same
Go
thing.
to the next one.
This feel like a projector. It's only 3 options.
You want to try it?
Yeah, let's do it. All right, say something, Kendra. You can't hear that.
Turn that volume up.
She got a portrait mode on. I say something, Kendra. Say A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's about the best we're going to get. Okay.
Everybody else.
I do ABCs again, Kendra.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, P.
All right, we got you. We got you. All right. So welcome everybody to our multiple offers training. I wanted to put together, originally when we were thinking about this, I wanted to put together, I was like, man, I need to put together me a super panel. So I started thinking of some people, man, and I was like, yeah, we need to have Kendra in the building. We need to have Rick. We need to have Cedric. Yes, we need Margaret. So LaQuana, she's finishing up with a client, but she said she's going to be jumping on. So we know we hear a lot about what's going on with the multiple offers and how frantic it is, and what, I couldn't really speak to it because I'm not out there like that. So that's why I wanted to bring you all in to talk about it, and I really appreciate you guys agreeing to do it, so we can get some real on the street information that our new agents, our affiliate members can take advantage of, and they can learn from. So with that being said, what it's really going to look like is I want each one of you to be able to introduce yourselves. And then I'm just going to act as the panel moderator and just kind of throw some questions out there at you all and see where it goes. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Ladies first.
Absolutely.
Ladies first. So we'll start with Kendra. Since Kendra's the one that's on Zoom, we'll start with her. And then we'll go around the room, start with Margaret, Doucette, and then finish it up with Rick D. All right. So Kendra, go ahead and introduce yourself. Let them know how qualified you are to be an expert panel today.
About all that, but I got a little bit of experience. So my name's Kendra Wheaton. I've been in the industry for going on 16 years now. Started in new home sales, did that for about 4.5, 5 years, then got my license in 2010. And now in the process of building a team environment that we're in now, it's definitely challenging, but there are some ways that you can, get your offer at the head of the game. So excited to be here.
Awesome. All right. I can't wait. I can't wait for us to hear about it. All right, Miss Margaret Harrison.
Hello, everyone. I am Margaret Harrison. I've been a realtor for 15 years. I've been with Brooks and Davis for about 5. So I've been on the end of losing some of these multiple offer situations in the past, but I have gotten into a good groove, so I'm excited to share what some of those tips are.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Margaret. Cedric.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cedric Hudson. I feel like I'm the baby here of the group. So I've actually only been in real estate for 7 years, but definitely not a stranger to sales and people and communication, seeing that I've been in education for 15 years. So I'm just used to that connection with people, having conversations, educating people about things such as real estate and other endeavors. And so I'm excited about it. Multiple offers is a situation that is real, that you have to deal with. I actually am going through that right now with the property that I have listed. So I'm excited about today's panel discussion.
Awesome. Thanks, Sid.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rick Davis. Been in real estate since 2006. Got my start in residential development, new home sales. Been working in residential listings as a listing agent and also as a buyer specialist for more than 10 years now here in Houston. Look forward to sitting in on this panel. Today's market has been challenging, and I look forward to offering some of the things that I've noticed out in the field, but also taking advantage of some of the ideas and some of the thoughts that everyone else on the panel has.
All right, perfect. All right, man. So, like I said, we're just going to be kind of doing like a roundtable discussion as it relates to what you all are experiencing and you all's knowledge as it relates to the multiple offer situation. So I want to start it off with the $1 million question, right? The $1 million question is, and you all decide who wants to tackle this one. How do I get my offer accepted? Like, what are ways that I can put myself in a position? So, especially if I'm dealing at price points, right now we're seeing anything under 275. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. 275 below, you fighting tooth and nail to try to get this property. So, how are you all putting your buyer clients in the best positions to get considered or to win? I didn't say consider, to win. What do y'all do?
Be aggressive.
Okay, so what does that mean?
Already know what your client wants, and the first time you see that property on the market, call that listing agent right then and say, "Hey, I'm coming over. I got an offer coming to you." Do not say, "I have an offer coming to you. Do you have any offers?" And sometimes the minute they put it on, they have some coming. So you want to always know, do you have any offers?
Awesome, and I'll piggyback on that. That aggression is very important, as well as being timely, right? So you have to have these conversations with your buyers ahead of time. Really get on a level, balanced playing field with your buyers to know what they're looking for, so you can go out and do your homework and research, so that when that time comes that you find that property that they believe that they want, that you're ready to move on it, right? And they're not taking that time to think about it. In addition, it's all about negotiation nowadays. So with this busy market, being flexible. Again, that's where my education background comes into play. Being flexible is super, super, super important. So having those conversations with your buyers about the potential of maybe surpassing the inspection, or being more flexible on maybe surpassing that option period, or giving more money for a shorter time. So just making your offer look more appeasing to that seller, instead of going the traditional route and doing the $100, 7 days, so forth and so on. Thinking about avenues where you can kind of shorten that time frame for that seller, and again, make sure your offer is strong, and again, just making sure that you're flexible.
I definitely agree with what both Margaret and Cedric are saying. For me, it starts before we even find the house. having a conversation with the buyer, also discussing with the lender where they are, knowing how much money they may have available to, if they do go over asking price. If we're talking about multiple offers, you know that the price is going to be driven up. You need to know how much money they have available. If they are going to go over asking, have the conversation about waiving appraisals. That form is key. I think that's important to set expectations up front, that asking price is just not good enough in this market, and be prepared to go over asking and really have a clear picture of what they're willing to pay over asking price. Another trick that I have found that has worked, I have all of my buyers write personal letters to the seller. The listing agent has to present your personal letter. I always have my buyers write a personal letter about why they love the house and why it's going to be a good fit for their family. And I've actually gotten my offer accepted because the sellers connected with what the buyer and how the buyer was going to use the home, whether maybe it was they have kids or something along those lines. So that has worked for me, and so I submit every offer with a personal letter for my buyer.
Wow. Does anybody else do that technique of using the personal letter?
I have in the past. What I started doing was just presenting it in the email, my confirmation email to the listing agent to make sure they got it. Then I'll just give some little tidbits or highlight what I want them to know about the buyers in that email.
And I've tried it in the past. From my experience coming from the Austin market, really the market determines the effectiveness, in my opinion, of that letter, right? If it is a seller's market, they're going for the money. Like they're looking for the money. Yeah, they're looking for the money from my experience. So when the market is a little bit slower, it's more of a buyer's market, I found that it could be beneficial. But in this market right now, lots of times that money talks. But again, it can never hurt. Never hurt.
Okay. So I have a question for you, unless you want to share some on that, Ricky.
No, I've been taking notes as far as that personal letter. That's something that I think can help, but help to make your offer stand out. So that's something that I'm definitely going to start considering from this point forward, because especially if it's something that a seller can feel like it's heartfelt and genuine. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, it's a lot of emotions that come into selling your home. Right. So for them to feel like they're either selling it to someone of like mind or somebody who would really appreciate or is in need, I'm sure that could definitely help your offer get looked at twice when everybody else is just something that's coming across the desk.
Say those memories, huh?
Right.
The seller selling those memories are invaluable to them. It's just not that valuable to the buyer. And look, and if you're Go ahead, Kendra.
I would say, and that's the key to the letter. There are sellers out there, just piggybacking on what Cedric said, that are all, they are money driven. My last experience with the listing, we had 47 offers on my last listing, and all the ones that had personal letters, it made the seller cry, and it made them look at it because they raised their kids in that house. And then when people talked about how they were going to raise their family in that house, it actually meant something. So out of the 47, they actually narrowed it down to all of the ones that had personal letters because they felt like that person would love and take care of that home in the same way that they did. Now, when it came down to making a selection of which one they went with, obviously money always comes into play, but I think it pulls at the heartstrings of the seller because they have raised their family there, or they have all those memories, like you said, Mike. And again, we're just trying to stand out. That's the goal. We want our offer to stand out. So whether it's what makes the final decision, I don't know, but I think that it gets us in the game because it's something different from what everybody else is doing. So it doesn't hurt.
Go ahead, Mark.
I wanted to bring up something from being in it for a longer period of time. You begin to develop relationships with agents. Mm-hmm. So I had to lean on some of those relationships to help figure out what is a win for that seller. So I knew the listing agent. So just pick her brain, saying, okay, well, what does the seller want? What's a win for them? So that gives me more ammunition with my client to say, hey, they're not concerned about this, this, and this. So we have to show them the money, or we have to show them that we can close sooner than anyone else. So cultivating relationships. Things come back around. You'll see these same agents again, good or bad. So make sure you're putting your best foot forward out there too. So when you come in front of a listing agent, they won't say, oh, no, we don't do business with Margaret. We don't like how she, we make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, because that also can, help put your client's contract at the forefront.
Absolutely. All right. So here's my question. You all are out there, y'all are doing deals, y'all working with buyers, y'all submitting offers. Do y'all feel like it's easing up as it relates to these multiple offer climate? What's you all's take? Kendra says no. Absolutely not easing up.
Yeah, I put a sign in the yard yesterday, put coming soon, and I already have 2 offers. Haven't even put the house in MLS yet. It is a multiple offer market right now. We were expecting multiple offers on the property, of course, after the open house this weekend. But I got a call at 8:45 last night. Somebody saying, "What can we do to keep putting the house on the market? How much does the seller want?" And that's what Margaret said. Sometimes they ask you, "What do they need? What's their win?" And obviously, my client wants the highest and best offer. But yes, it's absolutely in the market I work in and what I'm seeing, it's not slowing down at all. Everybody's trying to figure out strategic ways on how to get their offer seen first.
Wow. What do you think, Sid?
I agree 100% with what Kendra said. It's not slowing down at all. One listing that I just had, even the family themselves were just like, we've been in this house for 30 years. It's a wreck. It's a mess. Cedric, I don't even know if we're going to get any offers. Man, the first day that thing was on the market, there were 10 showings the first day, 2 cash offers, 2 obviously loan offers, and they're just trying to figure out, well, what's the best? And so we're sitting down and looking at these offers. So I agree. Kendra's absolutely right. It's a busy and competitive market right now.
People are taking those houses as is. You don't have to fix it up. You don't have to do anything. I have clients asking, do I need to get my yard together? Do I need to clean out the closets? Do I need to do this? I always say yes, because my name's attached to it. So I want to do the professional photography. I want to, I treat every listing the same. But I know that the facts are, this guy who put in an offer yesterday, I said, well, you haven't seen the house, sir. I don't need to see it. I know there's one that looks just like it around the corner. I saw that one last year. I want the house. They don't even have to see the house. They just are so excited that a house came on the market in the neighborhood that they want. They will take it as is, no repairs, no option. It is bananas.
Wow, that's crazy. All right, so I want to introduce another one of our expert panelists. It looks like she finished up closing that deal, working with her buyer, so we can get her to join into the conversation. Miss LaQuana Davis, if we can get her to turn her screen, there she is, turn her camera on. Before we continue, we want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. I let all my expert panelists introduce themselves and let everybody know why they're experts at this multiple offer stuff. We know that everyone that I picked is going to be an asset, because I know you all's activity in the market. So I know you all have a lot of great insights to offer. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell everybody a little bit about you, and then we'll continue with the discussion. Go ahead, LaQuana. Unmute yourself.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Again, my name is LaQuana Davis. I've been in the real estate industry for 6.5 years. So as you can see, I'm out here now with my buyers and everything, but this is a great topic to have. I think that in regards to multiple offer situations, you just have to prepare your buyers before going out. I think a lot of legwork, if you get them out there, you talk to them, while you're looking at these houses, so they can have a better idea to be able to move and to digest what's going on. I think that's very, very important in getting offers in quickly and in them understanding like what it takes to get the offer. I've gotten some denied, I got some approved. So, but it did take a lot of tries and a lot of creativity to get it done.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. So, you know, Kendra, you as well as Cedric, you all were on the other side of receiving those multiple offers. So as a listing agent, like Kendra, I can't even imagine helping a client trying to decide between 42 offers, right? As a listing agent, what do you all do, or how do you all determine, because this will help a buyer's agent understanding how the listing agent is approaching helping the seller decide. So how do y'all approach that?
Well, whenever I do multiple offers, I always put them in an Excel spreadsheet so that the client can really see and compare them side by side. So on that spreadsheet, I break down sales price, closing date, whatever contributions they're asking for, seller contributions, HOA. So pretty much every place in the contract that the buyer has offered something or put something in the contract, I have a column for it. And I put them all my offers into that spreadsheet, and they're side by side. So that way, when I do print that out and take that to my client's house, we sit down and we go over the spreadsheet so that they can see it and navigate it. Otherwise, it's really difficult. You can't email them 42 offers. They're not going to be able to really navigate that. They're going to get overwhelmed. So we start there, and then I have the conversation with them before we even start looking at them. Is what's important to you? Is it sales price? Is it waiving the appraisal? Is it, lease back? Is it, what in the offer is going to be the most important to you? And so if they tell me we want to start with anybody who waived an appraisal, then now we narrow it down and we look at only the offers that have waived appraisal. That's where we start. Okay, so we started there. Okay, so of those, what's the highest sales price? Then we look at sales price. So it really helps, I think, the seller to really be able to kind of narrow it down when you know what's important to them and what they're looking for in an offer. Otherwise, you'd be going over offers for days, and I think that's what's helped me to be able to navigate it, especially when you're getting that many offers on the listing. You've got to be able to break it down for them to be able to really absorb it and understand it in the best way. But you still have to present them all, so that's why I put them all in the spreadsheet so they can visually see each and every offer.
Okay, awesome. Sid, is that kind of a similar approach?
That is very similar. That was well articulated. I can't say that I had 42 multiple offers on the table.
I haven't either, brother.
So I haven't gotten to the point of the spreadsheet, but I like that piece of advice, regardless whether it's 2 or 3. I think that is excellent. So I'm definitely going to take that with me moving forward. But the biggest piece, as you've heard over and over again in this discussion, is finding out what's important to your sellers. What do they want? What is most important? So right now, the situation that I'm in, my sellers, they're the most important thing to them right now is who's going to get this deal closed the fastest. So they're closing date because one of the sellers works out of town on an oil rig, and so they're like, listen, we need to know who's going to close when I'm in town. And so forth and so on. So it's really just having that conversation, building that rapport and relationship with sellers to know what they're looking for, what they want, and then operating from there.
Cool. What about, I know LaQuana, Margaret, you all have listings. Rick, y'all have listings. Have y'all been in situations where you had to deal with multiple offers and you them to the client?
Yes. Pretty much the same thing I did with what Kendra said. Just itemizing things out so they can see it and be able to make an informed decision on that. So everything that Kendra says was very, very good. And even on the buyer side, calling the seller agent saying, hey, what is most important? Because you could have that offer out there, but if you don't know what's important to that seller, then you want to make sure you hit those points that are important to them. So you have a better chance of being, selected.
Rick, you were going to say something?
No, I think one of the things that's most important, especially when you're working with the buyers, is to set a correct expectation when you are formulating an offer. A lot of times as buyers, they can empower us to present a really strong offer, not understanding what commitments they're making with that offer. And what made me think about this particular part of the topic is when Kendra was talking about when sellers deciding if they want to work with people who are waiving the appraisal.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important things, and I think one of the biggest sticking points that any of us are going to run into, especially in an environment like this, is the appraisal, is the value, and what to do in the occurrence of value and list price and sales price not all matching exactly.
Mhm.
So I believe, especially if you're representing buyers as a buyer's agent, that's one of the things that you want to talk to them, have them speak to their lender about, and so that we know what we are going to do in the eventuality. Because what's happening is like, I agree with Kendra, most sellers are going to go with highest and best offer, not necessarily taking into account appraisal value.
Yeah, the other dynamics.
Right. So normally, if all things else are equal, if you're submitting an offer and you represent the seller, they're gonna go highest and best, and with those who waive the appraisal. So if you're gonna be on the buyer side, not only do we need to have our 3.5% per loan or lender, we may also need a full 10%. So those are the things that I think right now, especially if you're working in that first time buyer category or first move up category.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going from, oh, I bought my first house for 150, I'm selling it for 190, but now I want to buy something that's at 400. It's going to be that every time.
Yeah.
So like Laquana and Kendra were saying, I just think setting the correct expectations at the time of meeting is something that I think is do us all a great service now and leading up to close.
Absolutely. So, and look, I want to encourage you all that are on, if you have questions, you have comments, go ahead and put them in there. We have the chat. We can definitely put those questions and comments before our panel. So now I have another question. So in this environment and, representing buyers, it's our fiduciary responsibility to put our client in the best position. How much risk do you put your buyer in to try to get the house, right? Waiving inspection periods, waiving appraisals, having them give, higher earnest money and things like that. Like at what point as an agent do you say, you know what, I think you're being too risky to try to get the house? Do y'all ever have those situations?
Well, that's having a conversation with your client first, getting to know them, and then telling your client what kind of agent you are. Are you more risk averse? I'll tell my clients, you know what, I overestimate. So y'all know what y'all getting when you're working with me. So then I'll know what I'm getting when I work with them. All right, so do you just let it all ride? Because we can do that. So that lets me know how aggressive that I can actually be. Because again, it's not my money. It's your money. So I'm going to tell them we're going to put 2% down. You cool with that?
Yeah.
Or we're going to waive this appraisal. Are you okay with that? These are the consequences if this happens.
Yeah.
These are the consequences if this happens. Are you okay with that?
Okay. All right. Who else want to share on that question? Like how much risk do you put? Because think about it, buying a house, they're already afraid, right? It's already a lot of fear that's involved. So now to add this extra layer on top of it, because of the environments that we're in, what parameters do you all put around that aspect of it?
I would say one of the things that I never, ever encourage my clients to do is waive inspection. I know that I am receiving offers where people are waiving inspection. I just, as an agent, I can't get on board. So if that's something that they choose to do, obviously that's on them. They're putting the offer in, but I will never, ever recommend that. I just, the peace of mind of knowing that you have a safe house that is going to function the way you need to function, it needs to function for your family. Maybe it's a moral, ethical thing for me. It's hard for me to get on board with that. But being creative in your offer, whether it's paying for for title policy or offering to pay for title policy and those types of things, I think that those are things that you can do to make the rest of the offer look good. Now, shorter option periods, I 100% agree with and have done that. I have a great working relationship with the inspectors that I use. So if I know that my client is putting an offer in, I actually call the day I'm putting the offer in to the inspector and say, hey, putting in an offer, we want to do a short inspection period. Will you be able to inspect this house within this many days if our offer gets accepted? Because I've worked with them for 10 plus years, they make things happen for me. So I think it goes back to us also as agents building great relationships that then can feed over to our clients when we get into these types of situations. It's having the great relationships that we have with the lenders that can make things happen in shorter turn times, those types of things. It helps our buyers as well. So for me, I want my clients to feel comfortable with the risk, but I know, like Rick said, first-time home buyers, they're not really sure how to navigate this. They're trusting us, and so I want to make sure that they have a clear understanding of what it means if they're going to waive appraisal. Do you have the cash? What it means if you waive inspection and you find out the AC doesn't work, or there's a major issue with the roof or something like that. So I always want to give examples, but I haven't got on board with waiving appraisal inspection periods, but I am on board with having shorter inspection periods and just navigating that with the inspectors.
Gotcha. Laquana, you were gonna mention it. You're gonna say something, and then we'll bring Mr. Brooks in. He has his hand up. Go ahead, Laquana. You muted.
Just backing up what everybody else has just already said. Making sure your buyer has all the information to make an informed decision. Like you said, I don't recommend certain things, but I need to present all things, right? And once I present all the information as far as best practices and what we need to do or what should be happening here, the trend of everything that's going on so that they can understand things. And then I'm repeating things. I'm very repetitive because they may not understand it the first time. Let me say it again. The risk factors, always worst case scenarios are on the tables when working with buyers because you never know. I did have a situation where we did less option. I had a situation where I've had the lenders be called that helped us get selected. I've had situations where we did do appraisal contingency. In all those situations, I made sure that one, the buyer's making a decision, not me. Two, the ins and outs of everything, on paper, off paper, discussing everything to the end. Making sure that how much do you feel like you are able to lose, walk away, and still be okay? I've asked these questions to my buyers all the time. What are you comfortable with? At the end of the day, you put your best offer forward, and if you don't get it, you are okay because that is your best offer. Be comfortable with where you are in your situation. If you feel like you can risk this or you want to risk this thing, then how much do you want to risk? Where are we? Where are you with that? So those are just all the conversations that I have with my buyers in today's market and putting these offers out here and getting them accepted and things like that.
All right, thanks, Laquan. All right, Mr. Brooks, Texas Real Estate King. You got your hand up.
Listen, if y'all, for those of you that are new to the business that are listening to this, understand the consensus that each of these agents are giving you, especially when dealing with their buyers and understanding how to communicate with them. Reason being is because, and I'll be the person to say this, buyers are liars. Buyers cannot always be trusted. And I say that in a compassionate way for them because I know it's a risk factor for them. So watch the way that you handle them when it's a first-time home buyer, because 5 years from now, if you accept a deal where you waive the appraisal and y'all pay 20 grand more than the appraisal value of that property and it has not came back, that buyer is gonna come after their buyer's agent. I don't care how much they love you. It could be your mom, your father. They gonna come after the buyer's agent. That's always the first person that people think of. So be cautious and make sure that you use your best communicating skills when dealing with those transactions where you may have to offer more than asking price. I'm not saying 20 grand. Do the math. You know, you can look at something and figure out if you think the appraised value of it will come back in 5 years if they pay 20 grand more. But do your numbers and be candid with that buyer about what's gonna take place. Just my 2 cents. Just my thoughts.
He's like, Larry out.
Hey, that's a great thought though, Larry. I mean, as I sit here and think about it, you know, at the end of the day, although we have that fiduciary duty to our clients, I never sacrifice my moral compass, right? So if I get to a point where I'm like, there's no way I would do this. I know this is bad for them. Because for me, and I know that I speak for lots of agents here, it's not about the money. Personally, I'm all about putting people in a position to get past that stumbling block, that barrier that's been, you know, had a hold on their family for years and decades and centuries, and teach them the right way of going about things so they can build legacy for their family. So it's not about the money and getting that deal closed. As Larry said, what I don't want is, you know, a few years down the line, the home is not worth that value. That person feels like I'm a terrible agent. And now I've stifled that pipeline of continued referrals coming my way. So at the end of the day, yes, you just have to use some common sense and say, look, I know it's a competitive market. I want to get out there and get people into houses, but I want to first put people in a position that's going to benefit them and their family, especially when you're dealing with people that have kids and things of that nature. Like, I definitely don't want to put someone in a position that maybe down the line it causes them and their family to be in a bad place. Like that, yeah, can't do it. So, you know, I look at it because I'm a runner and I run marathons. I mean, fastness is not always best, right? So it may take a while to get that property that they want, but if you're doing things the right way, when they get it, they'll appreciate it. They'll appreciate you and your service, and everybody will be at peace with it.
Awesome. Hey, Larry, you gotta let your hand down, man, so we'll know if you have another question. You won't think you just got your hand up, just up. All right, so go ahead, Kendra.
Thought of another strategy or tip that I've used that I thought would be beneficial. So it's super important, obviously, for you to have great relationships with your lenders and title and inspectors and all that. But one of the things that I have done is I've had my lenders, because if the listing agent gets multiple offers and they've got 20 offers that they're reviewing, they may not have time to call every single lender to verify all the information. I've actually had my lender reach out to the listing agent with a phone call to ensure them that our offer is strong, we've got the money, you know, we can close quick, we've already gone through underwriting, you know, they can close, you know, just reassurance. So I have had that work as well. Was selected because they felt confident that our lender could get it done because the lender made that personal one-on-one phone call. So I would highly encourage, if you have a great working relationship with your lender, go ahead, have that conversation with them that every time you submit an offer that you would like them to you know, make a personal phone call directly to the listing agent and let them know that that your buyers are good to go and good standing, that if they did waive that appraisal, that they do have the cash. Because I will tell you, I have had several offers that have come in where people offered 10, 15,000, 20,000 over asking price. And when I called, I actually do call all of the lenders. But when I did call the lender, I confirmed with them that they did not have enough cash to go above and beyond their closing costs and down payment. They did not know because they weren't educated by their agent. So they assumed that, oh, I can go 20,000 over because I have 20,000 in the bank. They did not think about closing costs and down payment. So in actuality, they actually could not do it. So they did waive appraisal, and that would have put them in a very bad position because they did not have the money. So it's super, super important to communicate with the lender. But it's really, really important to know that the highest offer is not always the best offer. the highest offer, sometimes they are just doing that to get their offer accepted. And in actuality, they don't have the cash, or they can't get, they wouldn't be able to actually close on that home because of finances. So it's really, really important that you always review and call the lender and verify that they've confirmed that they have the funds to go over that amount.
And and I'm glad you brought that up, Kendra, because that was one of the questions that I was going to pose to the panel, especially when you're on that seller side of things and you're working with the seller. How much weight do you put in how credible the position of the buyer is as far as getting the deal done? Like, would you, when that lender, you have that lender make that personal phone call and deal with those apprehensions that the seller may have? Like if you got somebody, like Sid talked about, we need somebody that we know can close the deal. Like that's what we're concerned about. So that seller may be willing to sacrifice price, being able to have that assurance. So are you all seeing that as well? The seller's holding a lot of weight in, I like this buyer because I feel like they're strong. Now, obviously, if they're cash, cash is going to outdo. But we're talking about finance deals. The seller feeling more confident in the lender or the financing of this buyer, that holding weight over other offers.
Yes, I have found that when I was with my last listing, actually. Yes, that helped tremendously. But then looking at it from another perspective, like us realtors, we're people too. So we're a part of the transaction too. We're like really the gatekeeper to the seller. So when the lender calls me and lets me know how open they are, lets me know that, hey, I communicate with you once a week. And I'm like, oh, that will really be good if I had transactions where I didn't have to go running after the lender, asking them all the time, what's going on? When I have a lender that say, hey, I communicate once a week. This is what I do. I make sure all of my listing agents are in the loop. I let you know when the appraisal gets back. And I'm like, okay, I would say, okay, Mr. Seller, let's look at this one. This will make the transaction smoother. So coming from the perspective of just the agents, making sure our lives are easier and we're not all stressed out because we're seeing the multiple offers too, and we're having to put everything in spreadsheets and line everything up. When the listing agent not the listing agent, but when the lender can come to you and say, hey, yeah, this buyer is good, but this is what I do for you. Yeah. This is how we're going to make this smooth. Yeah. That they go to the top.
Okay. What about you guys?
I mean, obviously, even before getting to the lender piece, you educate your sellers on just the simplicity of, as you said, Michael, cash is king, right? So if I get an offer that's cash, how strong that looks versus an offer that's a conventional loan versus an offer that's an FHA loan, right? So looking at just those three dynamics right off the top really helps you to kind of decipher, okay, what's going to be an offer that's more likely to go through. And then in addition, even before you get to all of that, you can really close and narrow that gap on that discrepancy of what you have listed versus what is offered by a buyer when you're having those conversations with your seller about a realistic selling price. Because as we know, everyone thinks that their home is worth way more than what it really is, right? You have those memories, you have those ties to it. But at the end of the day, we don't control that. The owner of the home doesn't control it, right? The market controls it. And that was a situation that I was in just here not too long ago. I mean, the sellers were adamant. This is what, we think our house will go for. The market's hot. We hear about it. This is what we want to sell for because this is how much we need to make to do X, Y, Z. And we're looking at the comps, we're showing what's going on, looking at houses that are not updated, that are updated and where theirs falls at, and they're way over. And so you're trying to explain that process of, well, and then at the same time, when it's listed, they want to take that higher offer, right? So they want to list high over market value. Then they want to take the higher offer
over market, yeah.
Not considering all the things that come into play, right? So now you stretch that gap that could have just been maybe a $2,000 or $3,000 difference in what was offered at the highest and best, now to what Kendra talked about earlier, maybe even 20 grand. You're just like, okay, now we have to decide who's really going to be capable of financing this offer. So it starts with having the conversations with your clients, making sure that you're doing your due diligence and listing at the correct space, and then looking at those contracts, and then speaking with lenders and so forth and so on. It's a whole process.
Yeah. Now we did talk about it. I know Kendra spoke about it, LaQuana spoke about it, about not encouraging the client to forego the inspection. But what about the appraisal, right? Foregoing or waiving that appraisal, because I've heard of situations where appraisal coming back 20, 30 grand under the appraisal amount. And that buyer doesn't have that cash, but they did a waiver on it. So now they're obligated to buy that house or they lose their earnest money. So what's you all's take on putting a buyer in that situation and, to get them in a position where they can, beat out other offers?
And I would love to hear somebody's feedback because I've never had anybody waive the appraisal.
If you're thinking about waiving the appraisal for your buyer, you need to make sure your comps are tight. Make sure any appraisal that comes through are gonna fall in line somewhere about, and then have the conversation with your client buyer. Like, hey, I know you like this house, but it's not worth that.
Yeah.
It won't appraise for that. What do you want to do?
Okay, so do the comps ahead of time. All right, go ahead, Rick.
I mean, as far as doing comps and all that kind of stuff, that's great. But I mean, I don't have a crystal ball and I'm not an appraiser. And what happens is, in my opinion, is when you go too much into that with your clients, you try to come off like you are an appraiser or like you do have a crystal ball and they hold you more accountable. So what I like to do is talk to, if I'm representing buyers, I talk to the seller's agent. I'll let them know. We are so serious about closing on this property that we don't need seller assistance. For me, waiving appraisal, that's out of the question. But what I will let you know is that we are so committed to this that we don't need seller assistance, monetarily or financially, to get this done. Now, if for whatever reason we are under appraisal, is this something that you've discussed with your client? Because I've discussed this with my client. Because if we get to this point and there's an impasse, then that's another negotiation that I hope both of y'all are prepared to have. Because if we're going to do anything with a low appraisal, it's going to be a partnership. Before you accept my offer, because you're going to see my third party, and you know what my third party means. But if my offer is just an offer and we're not having communication, you don't understand why we wrote the deal the way I wrote the deal. And just in case you don't communicate with the seller the way I communicate with my buyer, the time is now. Because at the end of the day, I'm not telling my client, nah, we're going to pay whatever the appraisal saying if there's a shortage, we're going to make up the difference in cash. That's nonsensical. So what I will say is that we do need to be open to partnering with the seller if this is a property that we really want.
Yeah.
And then are we prepared to do that? Yeah. And it's got to be, saloon door swing both ways.
Yeah.
So I just like to do those things ahead of time. And like we all been speaking about and speaking towards it, all make our lives easier in the short and long term. Because just like Larry was saying, these chickens ain't gonna come home to roost for about 24 to 36 months. But when they do,
they coming.
Right, but when they do, you don't want your phone to ring with that type of issue.
Absolutely. All right, good.
I 100% agree with what Margaret and what Rick said. I think it's important as agents, if you are looking at waiving appraisal, is understanding what that form says. There are actually 3 options on that form. You can fully waive appraisal, you can partially waive the appraisal, you have options to choose. So you can actually put a sales price that your client is not willing to waive appraisal beyond, it's called a partial waiver. Your client may only be willing to do $10,000. And if that's what your client's willing, you just put the sales price that if it does not appraise for X, my client has the right to terminate. So I think it's up to us as agents to make sure that we are educated and understand what that appraisal form means, how it reads, and then making sure that we're checking the appropriate box. You don't have to fully waive it. You can partially waive it, but if you definitely know that your client does not have the money to pay the difference, then you can put in there that they absolutely want the option to terminate above what the contract states. So I think that if you use the form the correct way, it can be very helpful, but I think that sometimes agents don't know how to use it to help them in those situations to maybe get their offer looked at a little bit ahead of the next one.
Absolutely. And now the one thing I am going to put out there, I'm going to put out my public service announcement as it relates to that the form that Kendra's referring to when dealing with conventional properties, because with FHA, VA, USDA, all that's covered on the third-party financing addendum. And I don't even think VA or FHA, I don't even think they allow you to pay above and beyond. So it's only really with conventional to where you could do that partial waiver. But when you get that form, make sure you read that form and understand that form, because that form is written complicated, right? It is. I mean, to the point we were dealing with it to this day, I don't know how to properly write it in there to do if we have a client that's willing to pay over like say for instance, they're willing to pay 5 or 10 grand over what it appraises at. Well, when you look in that form, it's not written cleanly enough for you to really articulate it that way with that form. We even called the legal line with TAR concerning that form, and they really couldn't speak to how it needs to be written. So when you use that form, if any of y'all are about to use that form, you got a conventional deal and you're about to use that form because you have a client that's willing to pay a little bit more over what it's appraised at, they're willing to close that gap, then we need to sit down together and make sure that you're filling it out, that it is articulating it the right way, because what you don't want to have happen is that you think you have a level of protection in place and you come to find out you don't, and now your client's earnest money is at risk because that form is written very complicated. If you
I think that's a training in itself.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have a class on it, because I don't want agents to be fearful of the form. The agent that had the issue with the hotline did call me, and we did discuss it, and kind of educated her on how it should have been probably filled out. But I think it's important for agents to really understand how they can use it to their benefit, but not be fearful of using it because they don't know how to fill out.
Absolutely. Okay, well, we're coming kind of close to an end. I want to give each one of our panelists kind of like their last opportunity for inspiration, or for us, the new agents, the people that are out here putting up the, fighting the good fight. So we'll do one more round, kind of around the table. If you guys had any other insights or strategies or tips that you want to offer to the audience today, we'd love to hear it. I can say that what has already been presented has been great information. I hope everybody's taking notes because this is real life. Like, this is what's actually going on right now in our current market. Like, this is right on time information. So I definitely hope you're paying attention, taking notes, whether you're a new agent, old agent. I know we can all use these tips. We don't know everything. So let's stack our tool belt with as many weapons as we can. So, Margaret, what last words do you have for the audience today?
Okay, new agents out there, and even old agents, not old agents, but your relationships with each other. Keep them good, keep them tight, keep them right, because you will be working with these people. You will be presenting your offers to these people. So make sure you're on a good footing there. And also, something that's very, very simple. When you make an offer, confirm that the listing agent got the offer. I ran into a situation, agent calls me and said, hey, you never got back with me. What's going on? What are you talking about? We sent our offer in like a week ago. I'm like, oh, we going on the contract now. They never confirmed with me. Apparently it was just sitting in my junk mail. I'm like, you call, so just real simple. Call the listing agent, confirm that they did indeed get your offer. I know it's simple, but it could alleviate a lot of headaches.
Absolutely. And before you go, I'm gonna add a caveat to that, Margaret. Not only do you need to call the listing agent and confirm that they got your offer, ask the listing agent to, if they accept the offer or if they're countering your offer, because a lot of times we just do email. Mm-hmm. If you accept the offer, if your client wants to accept it, if it wants to counter the offer, email me, and then maybe call or text me to let me know that you emailed me, right? Because sometimes the listing agent will respond, but then you know how emails and things, stuff get lost, and they're just thinking, oh, they may not be interested. They must not be interested no more because they're not responding back. And it's like, look, I never got the email. So I would also ask the listing agent to call or text you if they respond to the offer as well. So I just wanted to add that caveat as well.
No, that's great. I appreciate that, Margaret. As a matter of fact, one of the homes that we're under contract for right now, that's how we got under contract. The offer was sent. It was sitting in my junk mail for a couple of days. The agent called me finally and said, you haven't responded. And while I was on the phone with her, I looked at my email. I said, it's not there. I looked in the junk mail. That's where it was sitting. So great advice. My advice, my 2 bits of advice to old, new agents, just make sure that you are communicating well with everyone, with all parties. I mean, communication is key and so important. It builds that rapport and that trust. So if you communicate and you leave the lines of communication open, it'll get you very, very far. And on top of that, even more, utilize your brokerage. Like when you're part of a great brokerage, utilize the brokerage. That's what they're there for. That we have this community, this network of people, experience that's here. Don't try to go out and do it on your own. Again, I've been in it long enough, but not that long. But Michael will tell you, I will call and text him in a minute about things.
And I answer.
Yes, he does. He responds promptly. And we figure things out together. So use your brokerage. That's the benefit of choosing the correct brokerage, right? Not chasing that commission split, but finding somewhere where you're going to grow and elevate, that you have the opportunity to pick up the phone, call them, and grow with one another and be in that partnership together. So communication, utilize your brokerage, that's key.
Awesome. Thanks, Sid. Go ahead, Rick.
In closing, I'll advise similar to what Margaret mentioned earlier as far as developing relationships with other agents in the area. I urge everyone to network, go out, meet other professionals, because you'll be surprised, like Margaret was saying earlier, that the pool that we are all working in is pretty small in comparison, and you'll be surprised, especially in a multiple offer situation like we're discussing, how it can be to your benefit and to your client's benefit to have a personal relationship, a face-to-face relationship with these people. Because most of the successful agents tend to be the ones that have the highest profile, tend to market themselves more, tend to market their services more. So if we all have done searches and seen agents that have multiple listings in the neighborhood, and you'll see that more often than not. So take advantage of education here at the brokerage, go out, meet other professionals, be part of the joint organizations and be active, because I've seen tangible benefits actually knowing and shaking hands with people, especially in a market like this when they can be competitive.
Okay, awesome. And before I let you go, Kendra, I just want to, if y'all have any last minute questions that you all want to throw at the panel, here's your time now to go ahead and put those in the chat, and then we'll address those as well before Kendra and LaQuanta go. Go ahead, Kendra.
I would encourage everybody to build a great affiliate team around them. Having a go-to lender for your buyers, having those go-tos where you can refer them out to a couple of different lenders, the lenders that you've worked with and built a great relationship, so that you can have that relationship where that lender does reach out to the listing agents for you. Having that great relationship with the inspectors that you use, so that if you do offer a shorter option period, that they are willing to, at a drop of a dime, be able to fit you in and get out there to do your inspections. I really think having a great team around you that can help you win those offers will help. And I also would say, please do your homework. Just because the house is listed for the price it's listed at does not mean that that's what the house is actually worth. Sometimes, sellers do want the houses to be listed higher than what the market shows. And it's up to you as a buyer's agent to make sure you've done your homework and going into presenting your offer that you know what the comps actually do show. Don't ever just submit an offer based on what the buyer says. Oh, okay, I want to list it I want to offer it for this. Because at the end of the day, if the house is already priced over market and then they're willing to go even further over market, it can turn out to be a really tough situation. So I really think it's important to, no matter how many offers you're submitting and how busy you are, that you take the time to do your homework on that particular property, what homes they're selling for in that community, so that your buyer has all the information they need to make a sound offer. So build a great team around you, do your homework, and then lean on us. I don't mind helping. I don't mind answering questions. We're a team. We're all in this together. We're a family at the end of the day, as we always say at Brooks and Davis. So reach out to me if you have questions or need strategies on how to help. I'm always here.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Kendra. Laquana, you ready? I know she had to step away, but I don't know if she's back. Are you back? I unmute yourself. Give some final thoughts for the people.
Okay, so final thought is make sure that you do your research. Make sure you do all your due diligence when working with buyers and sellers on both sides. I think the best way to be successful is to not assume things if at all possible. Make sure you are very educated so that you can educate. Really do your due diligence. That will take you half the battle. If you don't know, find out, ask someone, so that you can help your buyer or seller make the best informed decision that they can for what they are presented with. Again, you are a representation, you are representing them. So we never put ourselves above our clients. But again, we make sure that they get all the information so that they then can make the decision, because at the end of the day, it is their decision, it is their process. We are just assisting and guiding them through this process and making sure that we get all the information to them so that they can make the best decision for their scenario, their journey, their pockets, their everything, whether buyer or seller. So in all of that, do your numbers, make sure you're talking with them, make sure you do have your team. Your go-to team is always very important as far as your inspectors, your lenders, everything that Ms. Kendra said. I won't repeat it, but those things make your life easier when you have your team together, that you can call on and get things done. So best of luck to everybody. Thank y'all for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so we have a couple of questions that we're going to pose to the group. Well, I know Davita, she mentioned, matter of fact, she offered a scenario that she had a friend that opted out of an inspection and ended up with roof problems. Single mother was the worst decision that she ever had. So you never want to be the agent on that deal, and your client says she has the worst decision that she's ever made. Like, you don't want to be the agent, right? Go ahead, Margaret.
You know what? With that, you always get an inspection. Just say, okay, well, whatever the inspection is, we're still gonna buy it.
Yeah.
We just want to know what we're getting into. So if she would have known that the roof was bad going into it, maybe that wouldn't have made it, taste so bad or sour in her mouth that this was the worst decision.
Yeah. And I think people feel that way. I was actually talking to an agent today about this, and I was saying, even if you don't feel like that's the best decision for them, or you feel like giving them that information, like you don't trust that they're going to make the right decision if you give them that information, that's not your call to make. You can't make that call for them. Like, you have to give them the information, and then now, as it relates to maybe influence or persuasion or whatever, you want to help them see it, a different perspective. You want to do that, but you can't withhold the information, because if you withhold the information, then that's you making the decision for them. So now you have a client that says this was the worst decision that I ever made. It's because, in essence, that agent kind of made that decision for her to take this bad roof. She felt like she had no control in the situation. And that's what leaves a sour taste in their mouth. Now, I'm with Margaret. She might have saw that, hey, the roof is bad. It's not what I wanted. It's not ideal, but I'm still move forward with the deal. And it's easier for her to chew versus now you're in the house. It's kind of like you're surprised. So that's great insight, Margaret, that you offered right there. We have a question. So I understand that we never waived the appraisal. It was not that we never waived the appraisal, right? Have the conversation with your client. As long as the client understands the consequences that may happen, because in essence, they risk losing their earnest money. And if the client is okay with putting their earnest money at risk to put themselves in a position to get this property, and it turns out that the house is worth more than what they can I mean, they would have to come out of more cash than what they have to fill the gap based off of what the appraisal is. If they understand all of that and they're still willing to move forward with it, then by all means, let them move forward with it. So we're not sitting here saying you never do it. That's not what we're saying. All right. But you say never wait appraisal. If a client wants to pay over asking price, if they do, they can do a full or partial waiver for a certain amount. Yes, that's the form that Kendra and I were speaking to. I don't know, Kendra, you know what the official name of that form is? I don't know the official name, but it's a document, but it's only for conventional loans. It's only for conventional loans because for FHA, VA, USDA, the third party financing addendum is what addresses the appraisal situation. And again, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I believe with FHA, VA, USDA, you can't pay more than appraisal amount. Like the buyer can't come out of pocket to cover the gap. Yeah, for those loans.
FHA buyer who did, they paid $5,000 over closing.
Oh, so they did? Okay. All right. So
we made sure that in the form we said, it wasn't, they didn't do a full waiver, but they did, they were able to do it, and they ended up paying $5,000 over.
Oh, you know what? I think this is what I'm saying, Kendra. With FHA, they can't forego the right to get their earnest money back if it doesn't appraise. I don't think they can do that. Because with the way that the third party financing addendum reads, it gives the buyer the right to get out of the transaction if it doesn't appraise. It doesn't But with the conventional loan, you can waive that right. You can waive your right to terminate. I don't think you can waive your right to terminate based off of appraisal if it's FHA or VA. I don't think the buyer has the right to waive it, based off that form. But Shantae, go ahead, Kendra.
This was going back to what Margaret said, so go ahead and finish.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't think they have that option. So what we're talking about here, Shantae, has to deal with conventional loans and a conventional client having the ability to waive that right to the appraisal or to terminate because of the appraisal, and in essence lose their earnest money. Go ahead, Kendra.
I wanted to go back to the inspection, what Margaret was saying, because I think it's super important to know. Like I had my last listing that had all the offers on it. The buyer who purchased the property did waive appraisal and did waive inspection period, but they opted to still have an inspection done. So you can still have the inspection done. So the buyers did have an inspection, and then when the inspection came back, there were items on there that were kind of concerning. They weren't major issues, but kind of concerning to a buyer. And so the agent just called me and let me know kind of here's some of the items that are on there. What do you think? Obviously she did waive inspection period so that she can't back out. I went to the seller and just said, hey, here are some concerns that the buyer has about these options. And do you know that the seller fixed all of it?
Wow.
Does not always mean
Good seller. It was nice.
Will not fix it. That particular seller, morals and values and ethics, they could not, because one of them had to do with the hot water heater, which could have caused a fire. So they did not want to sell their home to somebody with an issue and then have to live with something happening. So it was a lot of little small stuff, but that seller actually did end up doing repairs. Not to say that it will always happen that way, but I'm just giving that example to let you know that it doesn't mean just because they waive option, that doesn't mean that the seller will always just not make repairs, especially if it's small. All the other stuff was like, changing an outlet cover and like little small things, a stopper and a tub. Less than $100, they were able to fix a lot of the other stuff, and they were willing to do it. And the biggest thing was the vent for the hot water heater. It was never vented out the roof, and it could have caused a fire. So they ended up, fixing that for the buyer. So don't ever be afraid to ask, I guess is my point. Even if you waive the inspection period and things come back, if it's a safety issue, remember that seller's still living in that house with that safety issue. So maybe posing that and letting them know, hey, you're living in a home that has a safety issue. The house could catch fire. We've got 35 days, 40 days before closing. Is your seller willing to address this for their safety and their family's safety? And in this instance, my sellers were.
Wow, that's good. Great insight. Okay. Another question. What do you do if the seller wants more than the market price and refuses to negotiate on the price? Like, how do y'all handle that? Margaret say, walk away. Walk away.
Okay, well, we represent buyers and sellers.
You represent the seller.
Question. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, well, that is a good question. Chantel, we talking about the person's representing, and you can unmute yourself to answer. Are you saying if we're representing the buyer and the seller is above market price and refusing to negotiate, or are you representing the seller? They're your client and they won't do it.
No, like we're representing the seller and he wants more than the asking market price. And then they're refusing to kind of maybe negotiate based on the market price. Like, what do you do if they're not budging?
So in essence, they want to, so you're saying in essence, they want to go to market more than what we're recommending, like
right.
Spending a list price, but they want to go to market above that list price, right?
Right.
Very much a common situation.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, Shantae, that happens all the time.
Okay.
Look at Kendra. What'd you say, Kendra?
I said that happens to me all the time. That actually happened with the listing I just put that I'm putting on the market this week. So my strategy is always this. I always try to educate my sellers just the same way I educate my buyers. And then I have a strategy in place to try to overcome that, what I would call objection, because it's an objection of mine, right? Because I don't want to list the house way over what it's valued. So first, when I have that conversation with them, I always use the wording when we're looking at comps as, hey, we're going to look at what buyers are willing to pay for homes in your community based on past sales in the last 6 months. So when I say what buyers are willing to pay, it's letting them know that they control the market. The buyers tell us what we can list your home for because this is what they're willing to pay. So that's how I usually always word it when I'm sitting down for my listing appointment to come up with pricing. And then I have a strategy for putting houses on the market to put the houses and price them in a way that will drive the price up for multiple offers. I always tell them if we price it too high and they have a good agent that does their due diligence, they're going to go into it already knowing it's priced too high. But if we price it at market or just above market, we know we're going to get a lot of interest and it's going to drive the price up. You're trusting me as your agent to get you the highest and best price for your home, and I always try to convince them to go with the strategy of let's list it at market or slightly above, and then let's let the buyers drive the price up. Let's not let you drive the price up by wanting to put it on the market higher. A lot of times they'll go with the strategy. The house that I had that had 42 offers, they actually wanted to list it for about $15,000 more than what I wanted, what I recommended, and they actually got $40,000 over list price, and the buyer had the cash, and we closed tomorrow.
Wow.
So I use that strategy with every single seller and just let them know it's what buyers are willing to pay in this market, in your community. And then I always say, let's let the buyers drive the price up, and let's not let the seller drive the price up.
Sweet.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I do know of another strategy. I used to use this strategy as well, Kendra, is where they would give me the price that they wanted to go to market with. And I would say, okay, look, we can go to market, because a lot of times they want to do it because they just want to see. They just want to see if they can get the number. They don't want to feel like they left any money on the table. So I'll say, all right, look, we can go at that price. But right now, at this moment, if we don't get anything in, say, 7 to 10 days, we don't get any responses, anything, then we're going at this price. And I get them to commit and agree and have them sign the listing agreement amendment at the appointment. This is the price we're going to go to if we don't get anything over the next 10 days. So I'm not gonna have to come back to you. I don't have to come ask you. Like, I'm just gonna make the move because you're agreeing to it right now. Like, I had that conversation with them at the initial appointment. So that's another way to approach it.
And this is just something I like to add.
Okay.
And this is just something to consider, is that ultimately, a house is only worth what the appraiser says it's worth. Period. Now, that only really matters if we're dealing with people who are getting loans.
Right.
So what I always go over with my sellers are, we can list your house for whatever price you want to list it at. I'm not going to argue with you over that. But when the appraisal comes, what we got to ask yourself is this: are we going to close at what the appraisal say so that we can make money 2 weeks later? Or are we going to hold out for a potential cash offer that could exceed the appraisal? But keep in mind, most cash offers are always going to come in 10% below list price.
Regardless.
Now, the question is, Rick, how can you say that with so much confidence? Is that normally cash offers going to consider the 3% for the seller's agent, the 3% for the buyer's agent, and the 3.5% closing costs.
Yep.
So now the question is, for cash, are you willing to wait for 10% less than listed?
Right.
Or are we going to close as soon as we have an eligible buyer and whatever the appraisal is? And get it done. I think if you go over that with your sellers at the listing appointment, all of these things, when they come to pass, won't seem like curveballs, but it'll just seem like softball pitches. So that's what I would advise. Now, a lot of the stuff that Kendra is saying, that's outstanding. What Michael is saying is outstanding as well. And I've done it both ways and still run into people who still don't grasp what we talk about.
Right, yeah, they're gonna be out there.
So that's why I always go to the direct. The bank is gonna tell us how much you can sell this house.
Yeah, and the reality, Shantae, is most people are not like that. Like we come up with these extreme circumstances, these extreme situations, and when you get out here, most people they do what you tell them. You approach yourself professional. You know, they can see that you're competent. They trust your judgment. That's what they're relying on anyway, and they're going to roll with you. Most people. Every now and again, you will run into those that they not, and you probably don't want to. Like Marvin said, you probably don't want to work with them. You probably do want to walk away. Now let's flip that though. How do you guys handle a buyer that's not rocking with you, right? We know that we're in a multiple offer situation. We know that it's challenging. We know that they need to position themselves and do all of this other stuff. What about that buyer that's like, nah, man, I want to offer less than what they're asking. I still want 10,000 applied to my closing because I still want 45 days to close. Like how do y'all handle those buyers?
Well, it depends on what kind of time I got that day.
Okay.
If I feel like entertaining, I'll say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna tire you out. Go look at all these houses and put on all these offers and see, don't you? And then you're gonna get tired.
Okay.
Now, if I had a time.
All right.
If I don't, I say, you know what? I might not be the best agent to work with you because I know I want the best for you too. I can't get you that.
I can't get you that.
Let me refer you to someone else.
Okay.
And I'm gonna pass them off to one of y'all.
Okay.
I'll let you go ahead.
All right, that's super cool. Normally, Michael, you only run into that situation with first-time buyers or those who aren't as knowledgeable or experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So what I try to do is I try to save people from themselves. I try to handle that the same way I handle people who are looking for houses to lease. Because the mindset is similar. So what I always try to make sure of is I gauge how many yeses I give my clients versus how many no's. If I can eliminate all the no's, I'll try to go down that lane. Now the question may be, how can you eliminate those no's?
Yeah.
I only tour houses with my clients that they can have that day.
Okay.
Now the question is, Rick, how do you do that? Because I'm only submitting offers before we look at them. Because if I do run into a Margaret, I'm not going to fire the client because they're ignorant. Mm-hmm. What I will do is allow them to see how their ignorance isn't going to get them anywhere.
Right. It's not going to get their result. Huh?
So we'll apply and send your lowball offer and it'll never get accepted. But we are not touring that property until the people sign that offer. Because why? We have a 10-day option period.
Right.
So it don't matter when my 10 days start.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll tour it on the first day of the 10 and have the inspection on the second day of the 10.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna do what they want to do.
Right.
So
I love that approach.
I'm a weirdo.
I have not had that approach. I like
I'm a
that
lefty.
approach.
I'm a left-handed person, so
That's what it is.
I always look at stuff from the different
Multiple
angles.
perspectives.
Right. So I treat those people like I would treat people who doing home leases. Because we don't take people out who lease in a house like that.
Right, we don't.
So we wouldn't do it first. I don't advise doing that with first-time buyers.
Gotcha.
Because what happens is when you see a bunch of properties and they don't get them, everybody's daughter's down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The energy is low.
Yeah.
And then they start shopping for other agents and
Yeah.
trying to fire you.
Because it's your fault.
Right.
You the reason I
When
can't
really,
get accepted.
like you say, Margaret, you wanted to fire them from the beginning. Well, I shouldn't say that on camera.
Too
That's
late,
good
man.
stuff right there.
But that's what I would advise in that situation.
All right, good
Right
stuff,
there,
man.
little nudge down.
Kendra, and then we see the Laquana's back as well. Do y'all want to address that? Like, how do y'all deal with buyers that don't understand the climate and they're not taking your advice into consideration on how to frame and put them in the best position to win? Like, how do y'all deal with those situations on the buyer side?
Be patient.
Say it again.
Once I've kind of given them the ins and outs, sometimes they have to have their own. But most of the time they're battling with themselves. So I think I have a little bit more patience than others. But I let them. Once I tell them, I just kind of sit back, right, for them to be able to have whenever they have their aha moment, because it's going to happen. And sometimes I have what's called a come to Jesus meetings. Once we get to that point, but with buyers, what I've found is that they have to, for whatever reason, they have to come up to terms with things on their own. Sometimes, some of them will take you as what you're saying as the expert, and some of them feel like they may kind of know a little bit more until it just kind of unravels for themselves. So sometimes I sit back. Sometimes I'm less aggressive. It all depends on the person and where they are.
Yeah, I would agree. I actually was going to say the same thing. I start with educating them, of course, on the market, letting them know. I give personal examples of past clients that I work with that, submitted offers on 8 different properties and didn't win because they wanted to negotiate and do this and do that. So I try to give real life experiences as well to help them understand that I've navigated this market, I've experienced it, I'm seeing what's happening. This is why we're doing it this way, or I recommend that we do it this way. But I did have a client here recently in the last month that still wanted to offer $50,000 below asking price on a property that we knew was going to have multiple offers. And I did exactly what Laquana said. I just put the offer in. They didn't get the house. I gave the feedback from the listing agent, and I let them kind of have their moment. So then now they're like, oh, we don't want to have to continue to go through that. We really need a house. And so now they're ready to go. So sometimes it does take them having their, like she said, come to Jesus moment. But I did submit the offer on their behalf because that's my job as an agent to submit it. But at the end of the day, it's a waste of their time and your time, and so sometimes you gotta be a little bit firm as well with them on situations like that. You are busy, you have other clients that you're working with, and so the time it takes to submit an offer, it's not 5 minutes. The paperwork has to be drawn up, and your time is valuable just as theirs is, and you don't want to waste their time or the seller's time or insult the seller as well.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. All right. Shantae had another question about the seller. What if the seller feels the house is not appraised at the correct price? Well, unfortunately, Shantae, they really don't have no control of the matter because the bank is only going to give the money based off of what the appraiser says, period. So
Most of the time, how long is appraisal shelf life? 6 months?
is it 3 months? I don't know. How long is appraisal shelf life? 3 months, 6 months? I think it's 6 months.
Because that's what I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, they got to live with it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah,
There is no going back.
Yeah, that appraisal. I mean, again, Shantae, you're gonna have sellers that think that they know more and that they're gonna try to do it their way. And some instances, you got to let them bump their head. And in some instances, you just walk away. But most of the 4 months. But most of the time, like I said earlier, people are gonna go with your expertise. They're gonna take your advice, especially if you present yourself the right way. You present yourself as a professional, and give them a reason to, take your instruction. Most people fall in line, like there. All right, Laquan, you have a question? Laquan raised her hand.
I was gonna also say, I was just gonna comment, if the, sorry for the background noise, I'm driving. If the seller feels like they don't agree with an appraisal, was that the question?
Yes. What if the seller feels the house is not appraised at the correct price?
So their agent or their representation has the ability to appeal. If they feel like their house is not appraised at the correct value, then they have to then show proof of why So sometimes the lender will give instructions on how something can be it can be appealed, but the comps have to support it. So,
here's the $1 million question, Laquana. Have you ever won an appeal from an appraisal? I ain't never won one.
That's a lot of work.
Not that they're going to win, but
you won one. Kendra said she won one appeal.
One in 16 years, I've won one appraisal.
One appeal.
But I mean, the question is.
But you can at least advise them that, again, the comps are going to support whatever the price point is, but that is just something that's out there. Because you don't want to tell them nothing. They can appeal it, but if you don't have the things to back it up, then it's not going to change.
They can appeal it. That is an option.
It's like when you're arguing. Do you want to be right, or do you want to have peace?
Absolutely. That's a good one, Mark. All right.
On the appraisal thing, sellers sometimes think that they're getting dollar for dollar for all their upgrades.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that when you're going in to make sure they understand, appraisers don't give you dollar for dollar for everything that you put in that house. So if you over-improve your home and put that big pool and, all that fancy stuff, and it doesn't match what the community matches and the upgrades of other homes in the market, then you aren't going to get full value. And I think sometimes that's what they do. They think, I put $50,000 in, I should be able to ask for $50,000, more. And that's not always the case. So sometimes it falls back on them that they over-improve their home.
Absolutely. They do that. And then sometimes they're putting value on their own memories.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Those memories of what you did in this house, you trying to put a price tag on it, and that buyer, your memories ain't important to them. They don't see that as valuable. So, but again, we've said it a lot throughout this training. It's up to us to educate our client. It's up to us to help them understand, maybe some of the nuances and things that they're doing unconsciously. They're not realize that their perspective or they're looking at it that way. And that's why we're there to counsel them and offer them guidance. But with that being said, man, I really appreciate all of my experts. I think you all did a phenomenal job. We got a lot of great information today. It turned out way better than I thought it was when I envisioned it. So thank you guys for doing that for us today. I do want to let everybody know as we wrap up, we are doing a happy hour. If you have not gotten the flyer, make sure that you all are on GroupMe. I know y'all be on GroupMe, but y'all be turning y'all notifications off. Stop doing that, right? Because then y'all be asking me like, what's happening? When is this happening? No, keep the notifications on. That's where we put our information of what we have upcoming, the flyers, the events, the calendar, all that stuff is in our GroupMe. Or if you are just going to turn your notifications off on the GroupMe, at least go to the Facebook business page so you'll know what we have upcoming. So tomorrow we have a happy hour. It's going to be at Space Cowboy off of Cavalcade. Linus, I can't pronounce his last name, but he's with Goosehead Insurance. He's going to be hosting it. So from 3 to 7. If you are able to attend, then go ahead and shoot me a text so we can get Linus a head count. for tomorrow, but I would love for you all to come tomorrow. Great opportunity for us to fellowship, just learn a little bit more about one another. We do speak a lot about family, and that's how family grows closer, is by spending time together. So that's why I want to put these happy hour events back in play. And we're going to start doing them once a month. So we're doing the first one on tomorrow, and I look forward to see all y'all lovely faces then. With that being said, let's see, will you be talking more about the trip at the happy hour? Yeah, we can talk more about the trip to San Diego that we're trying to put together for the NAR conference. So we'll be talking more about that at the happy hour as well. So y'all be looking out for those details too. But with that being said, you guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Kendra, looks like I'll be seeing you here in about 20 minutes as well. Remember, guys, if y'all need anything, we're here. We have that level, those layers of support. Reach out to me, reach out to Jess, reach out to the office. Kendra said reach out to her, and we're here to help you guys out. So we'll talk to you guys. We are recording it, so in about a week, go to the YouTube channel, and we will be able to have the recording of our multiple offer training, and you guys can relook at it if you want to. All right, y'all have a good one, man. We'll be in touch.
Win your day.
Win your day, absolutely.